Go for it, Nicole.
Thanks everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. I know everyone's busy, very busy time of year, and it makes it even that much more special that you're here. So I really appreciate it, and especially and also for our parents who joined. I think it's really shows a lot of kindness and integrity that we have so many people joining to hear what parents have to say. So I look forward to, I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say as well. So I think my talk will be around 25-30 minutes, and I'm just going to highlight some of the new findings from the ATTACH trials, and then we'll pause after, and Kara will ask our esteemed parents some great questions about their experiences. So anyway, yes, as Kara said, I co-created the ATTACH program with Martha Hart. Martha was doing her postdoc with me, and we really wanted to do something around helping promote attachment, because so much evidence was showing that in risky situations, if you can promote secure attachment between parents and children, you can really protect children's development. And what parent doesn't want to do that? You know, they want to help their child have the best start in life. And sometimes difficult things happen to families, and we wanted to help parents not have long-term problems because of those things in terms of their relationship with their children. I also just wanted to say, so we have Marcia Bruce here, we have Simone Lalonde here, and Susanna Vero here. Unfortunately, Rabia Christie couldn't join, you know, with all the bugs going around. She's a sick child. We wished her well. But anyway, really thrilled that Susanna and Simone and Marcia are here. Okay, so and Marcia, it is Marcia, not Marcia. I always want to say Marcia.
No, it is Marcia, actually.
Oh, I did it the wrong way. Okay, sorry. Sorry, my apologies. So Marcia, I'll have to definitely commit that. I'll write it on my hand for future. All right, great. All right, so moving right along here. I also wanted to see if I can just make the slide go to the next slide. There we go. I wanted to acknowledge our amazing team. You see Dr. Hart here at the top, and Dr. Lubna Anis, and Virginia Xavier, and Joanna Pekarsky, and you know, some of our community partners at the bottom, Dr. Carleen Donnelly, Executive Director of COPS in Calgary. These have been our incredible partners and team members who have helped us do this work, and so we just wanted to acknowledge them, and particularly the Harvard Center of the Developing Child for really helping us launch this program in a big way. So in terms of, oh, gotta go to the next slide here. So in terms of background, I'll speak to you a bit about parental reflective function, attachment, and toxic stress. And so what is reflective function exactly? It is the target of our intervention. In order to promote secure attachment, we are targeting this capacity to attend to mental states in oneself and other people, and people's ability to interpret and respond to behavior accordingly, which is, you know, the reflective function capacity. And it's uniquely human capacity, as Peter Fonagy, the father of attachment theory, says, to make sense of one another. It comes from, you know, along the traditional attachment theorists, John Bowlby, you know, beginning in the 50s and 60s, he really spoke about attachment, importance of attachment to children's lifelong health and development. But he had insight a long time ago that others didn't have, which really spoke to the importance of parents' reflective function. If they could have insight into the motives underlying their children's behavior, he believed that this would improve parent sensitivity and responsiveness, and ultimately promote secure attachment between parents and children. And there's a lot of related terms I like to comment on that are, you know, overlapping but different than what we are talking about. So there's the theory of mind, metacognition, mindfulness, empathy, emotional intelligence, and many of these concepts tap into the same kind of socio-cognitive systems, but they're not synonymous with reflective function. Reflective function is an internal ability rather than an observable behavior, but it does result in observable behaviors and things like sensitivity and responsiveness. So essentially, parental reflective function is a specific type of reflective function in the context of the parent-child relationship, and it focuses on how the parent perceives the child or themselves as a parent. And that is what we focus on in ATTACH. And so toxic stress, you know, challenges that families face, things like parental depression, addictions, and or family violence, they're considered to be toxic when they're unaddressed in the context of the parent-child relationship. They're considered toxic when unaddressed because they undermine children's development and health. And there's three kinds of stress, right? So, you know, there's positive stress that, you know, we all have daily stressors, little stressors in our daily life. I needed to get to this meeting on time, for example. That was what we call a positive stressor because it stimulated me to get here on time. That stress associated with the need to do something. And then there's tolerable and toxic stressors, and all this work comes from the Harvard Center for the Developing Child. And what we are talking about here in terms of these family environments that can undermine children's development, they are only toxic, as you see in the bottom where the red circle is. They're only toxic in the absence of protective relationship. But in the absence of protective relationships, the stressors they're prolonged, and the activation of the stress system, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis and the release of cortisol, which is that stress hormone, when that is activated in chronic ways, it is damaging to brain and body systems. So what we're trying to do in ATTACH is take situations where there's potentially toxic stressors and build protective relationships. So those stressors will be tolerable or even positive. We learn sometimes about growth from stress. So we're trying to take toxic stressors and turn them into much more manageable experiences. And so at-risk parents experience reduced parental reflective function and are less able to respond sensitively to their children. So when parents are faced with a lot of stress, it just undermines interactions with children, but everyone for that matter. And so we're trying to help parents overcome that problem. And without being highly reflective, parents are more likely to misattribute affective states, that is emotions in their children, not notice them or think about them in less positive ways. And it makes a situation where parents can respond insensitively to their children or not respond at all. And that's part of the explanation for why stress is toxic to children's development. So stress undermines parental reflective function. And toxic stress, exposures to these toxic stressors that are kind of overwhelm the person, they result in downregulation of the prefrontal cortex, that part of your brain that's in the front. And your prefrontal cortex is involved in the control of thoughts, emotions, actions, impulses, planning, and forethought, which are all essential to reflective function. So when there's stress, that part of the brain is downregulated, not functioning the way you'd like it to. And what is happening is, in the context of stress, the amygdala is upregulated. And that makes sense because the amygdala, in the situation of stress, it focuses on processing fearful and threatening stimuli and events and preparing the person to respond, right? To focus on threat detection and reacting with appropriate fear and protective behaviors, right? So while the brain is doing what it should do to be protective, in the context of the parent-child relationship, it's undermining that relationship at the same time as it's doing, what it should do, which is, in the context of stress, be looking around for ways to protect oneself and one's child. But it does mean that that reflective function is downregulated. And so, less energy in the brain is devoted to thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and more is devoted to reacting. And that's what we're trying to help parents address in the ATTACH intervention, helping them get back into the prefrontal cortex when the situation is safe, which is what we hope and presume most of the time in the ATTACH intervention, that families are in that kind of situation now where they can move back to the prefrontal cortex and start to devote more time to their thoughts, feelings, and emotions and those of their child. I have to keep an eye. Oh my gosh, I better go faster here. Okay, good news. So everyone has the ability to be reflective, and it's modifiable with practice. That's what we found in ATTACH. So when a parent has high reflective function, they're able to regulate their own feelings and behaviors towards their child. They're more sensitive, more responsive, and it can buffer the negative impacts of stress like family violence and depression on child outcomes. So higher parental reflective function is associated with secure parent-infant attachment, and that secure attachment is associated by their child development. So this is how we get to our ATTACH outcome. So a parent with high reflective function has the ability to see their child as a separate individual with a mind of their own. In contrast, some parents, when they're under a lot of stress, they kind of attribute their own thoughts and feelings to their child, which may not be accurate, And so these parents with high reflective function that we're, helping to build in the context of ATTACH, they are able to imagine their child's thoughts, feelings, and intentions, and more accurately so, and perceive the influence of their own emotions on their child, and keep their child's intentions in their own mind. And so how parental reflective function impacts stress and attachment is really well described by this little graph. So when there's a stressful situation, as you see at the top, and the child is stressed, say there's an unfamiliar dog or person the child's not met before, that activates the child attachment system, which means they go to the caregiver to get comfort. That's the bottom light blue box. And then the caregiver should be able to provide comfort, and that down regulates the child's fear, right? But what happens when so the caregiver should recognize the child's distress and regulate their own distress. But what happens sometimes when parents are very stressed themselves, they can't recognize the child's distress. And so they don't regulate their own stress around the stranger or the dog. And so they unfortunately are unable to do that for their child too. So, and here's just an example from some of the interviews that we've done with parents in our projects. We ask parents these questions to kind of get it. This is how we assess reflective function, through interviews. And so this is an example of low parental reflective function. So the interviewer says, "How do your feelings of joy affect your son?" And the parent says, "I don't know." And that would be a low reflective function score. It goes 0 to 1 on our 11-point scale. And so it shows the mother cannot imagine how her child thinks and feels in that given situation. And then here's a mid-range example. The interviewer says, "Can you think of a time when you and your daughter were not connecting?" And the parent said, "Well, I wanted to clean her hand, so I took her snacks out of her hand. She started to cry because she thought I was taking her snacks away from her." And we give this score about a 4. And this is an example of the mom developing a growing ability to imagine what is in her child's mind, basically what her daughter thinks and feels during the interaction. Okay, so you kind of get a sense of how it's moving from "I don't know why she cried" to "It's probably because she didn't like I was taking her snacks away." That could have been more, right? And then here's an example of high reflective function. So the interviewer says, "How do your difficult feelings affect your child?" And the parent says, "Well, I think there's a transfer of energy, regardless of how either of us are feeling. Like if I'm having a stressed out day, it overflows onto her and she can pick up on my stress. And it might make her a little less tolerant of things I need to do just because she's stressed that I'm stressed, or vice versa. Like if she's not feeling happy or playful, or if she's feeling frustrated, then I'm frustrated that she's frustrated." So this is a higher reflective function score, 6 to 7, and the mother's really attuned to her daughter's feelings and how their feelings impact each other. So you start to see how you get it toward the scale, and learning about this scale from Fonagy and his students, the Steeles, Howard and Miriam Steele, who are amazing researchers in their own right. They say that people like Gandhi would be scoring 11. Like it's there's the bar for getting an 11 score is pretty high. Someone has total insight and into a lot. So anyway, this gives you a sense of what we're trying to help parents do. And so here's the attach intervention. So our proximal target is to improve parental reflective function. So right here, to recognize the child's thoughts, feelings, and mental state. So this kind of up here in the right hand corner. And then will ultimately we expect and have seen that it improves sensitivity and responsiveness to the children, which promotes children's attachment, security, and healthy relationships and development. And actually, we can study this program long enough, we hope that we'll see intergenerational impact. Children, your son Simone will be securely attached and likely have healthier relationships and continue a wonderful process of intergenerational resilience and high adaptability. That's kind of what we're hoping for. So lofty goals, but why not, right? And so the attach intervention, it's a triadic parenting psychoeducational program designed to foster parental reflective function. It's triadic in the sense that it's the parent, it's the child, and it's the attach facilitator. It's been face-to-face, one-on-one sessions and face-to-face. And actually, I misspoke. When I talk about the triad, we have also included the other parent, the co-parent could be dad, if there's not a violent situation or it's a resolved violent situation, or it could be grandparent, best friend, whomever. Okay, so the triadic also implies that there's a couple of sessions, 2 to 3 sessions during the 10 to 12 sessions in which we invite the co-parent support person into those sessions. And interestingly enough, we're starting to do this with an app now. So it's face-to-face, but not necessarily in person. All right, and we initially developed the program to be add-on to existing parenting programs, because most parenting programs teach parents about, saying, like eye contact, use lots of rich language, teach your kid things. They teach you about attachment, but not actually do it in the way that we're doing. So programs tend not to emphasize reflective function, those that try to help parents be the best they can be. So we're pretty different in that regard. And our attach interventionists integrate psychotherapeutic and educational interventions in order to assist the parent. And also, it's super key that support needs are addressed and the value of co-parenting support is acknowledged, which kind of speaks to that triadic nature, as I was getting at a moment ago. All right, so it used to be 12, it can be up to 12, but we require 10 sessions at least between an attached trained facilitator and the parent. The parent determines the focus of what goes on in the sessions for the most part. Stressful situations are considered. The parent is obviously encouraged to think about the child's thoughts, feelings, and intentions, and those of oneself and others. The parent is helped to gain perspective by making sense of their own experiences and those of the child. And the child is often brought into the conversation if not there. And we do this important work where we videotape parent-child interactions, and we look at those interactions in detail, asking questions like, does the child enjoy this moment in this videotape session where you're playing with the baby? How can you tell? Why or why not might the child be enjoying that? And so that's the free play interaction. Then we do hypothetical situations we go through as well, and then real life stressful situations. And so that's the program in a nutshell. And I would give you some updates on the findings, which we're pretty excited about. So we've now evaluated this in 7 pilot studies. And our main agencies were CUPS here in Calgary, Sunshine, and Discovery House. So CUPS is an agency that works with children and families where there's there's low income, housing challenges, educational needs. And Sunshine and Discovery House work with women and children who have left situations of family violence. Right. And so for pilots 1 to 3, these happened at CUPS and Sunshine Women's Shelter. And by the way, so we would randomize parents in the agencies to get either the program attached or the control condition. But remember I said that this program is designed as add-on. So all parents in both organizations also got another program. Whether they were in treatment or control for attached, they got a basic program called Nurturing Parenting at CUPS and TheraPlay at Sunshine. Both well-established programs that do promote better outcomes in kids and promote parenting quality. So any findings I'm speaking to you about show how attach as an intervention, when delivered on top of this other parenting program in comparison to that other parenting program alone, are it just shows how much more effective attach can be for parents when you add it on. All right, and then the second set of pilots were delivered at CUPS and Discovery House Women's Shelter. So again, the Nurturing Parenting program was the control condition, and the treatment group got that plus attach. And then at Discovery House, the kids were getting the developmental care program in the control condition or the developmental care program and attach. And you can see, so our sample sizes range from 10 to 20 kind of thing, because it's a multiple rapid cycling pilot trial design. And so here's some of the beginning results. So I'm not going to present them all, but there's so much good to present, I had to pick and choose. And I guess if I have an overall theme here, we have been amazed at how many positive outcomes attach produces. Whatever we seem to look at, for the most part, we seem to find improvements in, and it's quite a shock actually. And that's not a usual thing. I have been developing and testing interventions for years, one for teen mothers, another one for depressed mothers, and just don't see impacts like this. So just want to, frame these findings with that comment. But this, in pilots 1 and 3, these are the randomized controlled trials where we randomized 30 people to get the program or not. And we found that mother's reflective function about her child was significantly improved over the control group. And when we looked at that, what other measures of reflective function, the same trends were there. So there were significant differences between treatment and control groups on mother's improvement or in comparison to the control group on reflective function. So yay, we improved reflective function. So that was that's what we wanted to do. And then what does that lead to? Well, we also looked in the pilots 1 and 2, pilot 1 being the randomized control trial, and pilot 2 was a group where we just looked at people pre and post. We didn't compare them to a control group. We just want to see, did you improve over time in the treatment group? So we found in pilot 1 that there was a significant difference between the treatment and control group on all kinds of measures of parental sensitivity and responsiveness. just like in that diagram I showed you earlier, where we hope that when parental reflective function increases, that we'll also get increases in sensitivity and responsiveness. We do. So yes, we're really pleased to see that. And of course, favoring the treatment group, the group that got attached. And then we also saw, when we just compared within a group, not compared to control, but compared to people when they arrived in the program, we did some assessments of parent-child parental sensitivity and responsiveness, and then we measured them again 10, 12 weeks later. And we found within that group, not compared to control even, but within that group, they also improved. So we saw differences between groups, and we saw improvement over time within the group that got the intervention. And then we also wanted to look at, and this is in our earlier pilots 1, 2, and 3, where we measured attachment. And attachment is hard to measure, by the way. And you can't do it with a questionnaire. You got to do it with observations. And I'm sure, Simone, you maybe remember us taking you and separating you from your baby and bringing you back in the room and so on. It's quite a process to assess attachment. We were looking to see, does the child seek comfort from the caregiver on their return? Does the child get comfort and can go back to play and explore? And these, are super important for mental health and physical health over the lifespan, just strangely enough. But we did find earlier in our data trends towards secure attachment, but we did not see significance. And I think it was because maybe small sample size. The challenge of measuring that meant that we didn't get as many people completing that part of the assessment. But we definitely saw trends toward more securely attached kids in the treatment group. And you'll see later on what we've found now. So I'm pretty excited about these new findings to share. But again, when we look at the different types of reflective function, the reflective function of the mother toward herself, the reflective function of the mother toward her child, and overall reflective function, you see significant differences as well. So again, and these findings are published in a couple of papers. I just put this up here in case people want to, if they're watching this video later and they want to, or you want to find out what they are, here they are. And then we have been analyzing the randomized controlled trial results from pilots 4 and 6, and we're looking at child development more and some other measures in these data. And we find improvements in children's fine motor skills when they have exposed to the program. We find improvements in parental reflective function. There's another measure we added here, which is an interview, sorry, not an interview, but a questionnaire. And we found using the questionnaire, yes, indeed, parent reflective function is still going up, this other measure. We found, again, improvements in fine motor development. Isn't that fascinating? It'd be interesting to maybe talk about why we think that might be later on. But, so they're able to pick up that raisin or that Cheerio or that, better in the treatment group than the control group. Like, what's up with that, And then, so again, we find more improvements in parental reflective function in the pilots 5 and 7, where we compare the people that got the treatment attached program to themselves at enrollment versus at the end. And we see all kinds of improvements in children's behavior. We see attention problems reduced. We see aggression reduced. We see overall aggression, conduct kind of behaviors, hyperactivity behaviors reduced. We even see their executive function increasing. So kids are working with their prefrontal lobes, which is interesting because we're targeting parents to start working, using their prefrontal cortex. Sorry, not lobes, but cortex. And we're seeing the kids do that too. And we're seeing children communicate better with this ASQ scale. And moving on to other results in the same area, we found that children are less anxious. They have more attention. They are, again, communicating better, and their problem-solving skills are improved when their parents have had this program. And so that's all pretty exciting. And we're just about to submit a paper on those findings. And then, and Kara is here, thank goodness, because she may be able to answer some questions that anyone has on this data. But I am so excited about this data because we saw it with Kara's team's help to determine whether the attached program predicted healthier immune cell gene expression profile. So we wanted to know if it produced lower pro-inflammatory and higher antiviral gene expression in our sample. And we only did this in one of the agencies at the Discovery House. And believe it or not, we collected little drops of blood from babies and drops of blood from mothers. And the measure is called the conserved transcriptional response to adversity. And we did dried blood spots from those little drops of blood from mothers and babies. We did mRNA sequencing, and then we assessed the samples for this gene expression, and we did some mixed effect linear model analysis of 53 of these indicator genes. And it's, like I said, it's based on pilot 7 only. This was a limited, effort in because we wondered what would happen, but we didn't have a ton of money to do this, and it was really for feasibility. And I will talk about we have built upon this in work that we're doing right now. Here's the exciting result: mothers and children in the intervention group, so those that got attached, had lower CTRA scores post-intervention compared to mothers and children in the control group. So attach actually downregulates immune cell gene expression linked to inflammation. So that is pretty exciting. So I don't know if what that might mean, but I've had people who have heard these findings before say, does that mean kids that go through attach are less likely to get COVID, for example? And I don't know the answer to that, but it sounds like their immune function and immune health is likely to be better, at least in the short term. We don't know about long-term impacts. Maybe Kara does, but it's pretty exciting to think that if intervention for parents is, is how they about and that targets how they think, is actually producing impacts on immune cell gene expression. So there you go. And so and then we have done some analysis across all these samples. I talked about how we were not seeing impacts of the intervention on attachment security, which we're disappointed about early on, because we think it was due to small sample size and the challenge of getting that measure. But when we combine all the samples and all the mothers and children who participated, who gave us data to look at attachment security, we found that when we looked at the randomized control trial data that controlled for the baseline scores and reflective function, attach significantly improved attachment security in the treatment group compared to control group. So yay, it is promoting secure attachment, which we would expect considering all the other improvements in parental reflective function, maternal sensitivity responsiveness, and child development. Like what was left out there was that attachment measure. And here we have now been able to demonstrate that it does improve attachment security. And I just wanted to say something interesting here. Baseline scores in reflective function. So if by happenstance, the control group in our 7 pilots had higher reflective function scores at baseline than the treatment group. So what this implies is that when we see significant differences between the groups on reflective function, and the control group was already higher to start with, it shows that our treatment really, for me, it even emphasizes the degree to which the program really does work, because the control group was already pretty high and didn't have to move. Right, they probably weren't going to change. But when we looked at the differences after the intervention, the treatment group was that much better. So anyway, so a bit of editorializing. And then here's a couple of papers that sort of summarize those findings. And so just in conclusion, we found that attach improves parental reflective function. That's this right here in the upper right-hand corner. Improves parental sensitivity and responsiveness to cues. That's the bottom right. Children's attachment security, which is the bottom left. And then children's health and development across a whole range of outcomes, including immune function. And interestingly, and I didn't really emphasize this very much, but it also improved parentship immune cell gene expression. So I guess that might mean, Simone, that you're less likely to get COVID too. I don't know. But that is something that we did not expect at all. And I'm not sure if Kara hypothesized that at the beginning when she was designing that aspect of the study, but for me, it was like, well, let's get parents to take a little blood sample and they can show their child, and then their child is more likely to do it too, right? So for me, it was almost like, well, let's just do it and we'll look at the data, but I don't expect anything. It's more just so that the parent will show the child how comfortable and easy it is to give a little tiny blood drop, right? Anyway, so unexpected. I think that's pretty exciting. And then just to kind of finalize here, and I'm just about wrapping up, but ongoing and future work, we are scaling and spreading, and officially now we're in 3 provinces delivering attach. And I know that Martha is looking at training people in another province in Canada soon. So hopefully we'll be spread to 4 provinces. And these are some of our partners. I suspect that we're missing a few because people keep coming to us and joining our team. We've also are spreading it to Brazil and even Cameroon in the continent of Africa. So I think that's pretty exciting. And we have turned our program into an online training program for those facilitators that are getting trained to deliver attach. So there's a big portion of attach training that's happening online. And then and you can go to our website and check that out if you like, attach.teachable.com. And the only other thing I just wanted to mention is that we're just about finished. Joanna can speak to that. We're just about finished testing the app we have developed. So not only is the training partly delivered online for attached facilitators, but the program has now been, it can now be delivered online. So it'll be that much more convenient for parents, and they don't need to go to, we don't need to have you go to a clinic to receive the program. You can just be anywhere, in the comfort of your home or wherever you're comfortable. So that is my presentation. And if you want to know more about some of this science, I have my few books up here. Feel free to check them out. And I don't know if you can access me on Twitter anymore. I've been thrown off of Twitter. Thanks, Elon Musk. But because someone cloned my account and I've been thrown off, but I have it here, hoping that I'll be reinstated once the dust clears. So, but that is it for my talk. So I'll turn it back to you, Kara, to moderate the next portion.
Just unmuting myself here. Thank you so much, Nicole, for that. That was wonderful. Can you guys see me, or?
I can. Yep.
Okay. All right. My screen is interesting right now. I tried to pin you guys. It didn't work. So I'm just going to leave it alone for now. Let me just change my view so that it's recording so that everyone can see. I see we already have a question. Before we jump into questions, so keep your hand up. I'm going to give our panel a couple of questions, or an opportunity to talk a little bit about their experience as well. So, but first of all, thank you, Nicole. Every time you give a talk about Attach in any context, I'm like, wow, this is amazing work. Like, there is so much going on here, and there's so much positive stuff happening. So thank you again for telling us about, giving us the update and sharing all of the new findings that are coming out from Attach. This is awesome. As a reminder, if you have any questions, again, please feel free to pop them into the chat or raise your hand. But I'm going to, now that Nicole has talked a bit about what the Attach program is, where it comes from, some of the findings that we've seen, we wanted to get some insight from our family advisors. I'm told I shouldn't be using the word stakeholders because that has colonial implications, but I do want to be sensitive to that term. But our family, a panel of family advisors. So we have some members here today. Simone, Marcia, and Susanna are here today as well. And these are family members who have had experience with the Attach intervention. They've looked over the Attach modules, and they have experience with research, participating in research as an advocate or as a panel member. So what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to start off with just one theater question, and you can reply. And I'll shout out your name. I'll do Hollywood Squares just as you appear on my screen, so no particular order. So the question I wanted to start off with was the first two. So if applicable, what was your experience as a participant in the Attach intervention? What did you like about it? What would you like to be changed or added? And based on your experience, what would be some barriers to getting families enrolled in and successfully through the intervention? And then related to that, given your involvement in the Attach study and Attach Teachable, what is your impression of the Attach intervention? What role could it play in parenting and/or community agency service delivery? And what are some potential obstacles to getting community agencies and families involved? So big questions, but I wanted to make sure that everyone, it could encompass everyone's experiences with Attach. So Hollywood Squares, I see Simone first. Don't want to put you on the spot, but you are there. So if you want to unmute yourself and give us some insider perspective from your perspective. Yeah. And I see you have someone in your lap as well. So get.
Yes. So yes, this is Kaden. And so he's my little one that participated. I will try my best to answer this question. There's quite a lot of parts to it, so I want to be answer to each one. But I would say, what was my experience in participation with the Attach intervention? I would say positive. I would say I enjoyed actually doing it quite a bit. It was a really good shift from focus from dealing with. Just going to slightly mute my little son's. Turn just a little. Thank you, so I can hear it. we're listening to a little game, but it was positive, and I felt like it was very supportive. It gave me a chance to really refocus on very much, and I know Martha, when I first met her, she was like, yes, you literally are going into a different part of your brain, because that's what was my comment, is I felt like I'd really shifted. Because, you know, you are really on survival when you're in a difficult situation, and you don't even realize you are until it's brought to your attention. So it really brought me back to parenting. And so it brought a lot of enjoyment, in the sense of I had a focus outside of what I was dealing with that was positive, and I could see the change quite right away in the way it was very immediate, and that was very nice. And then I would say, so what did you like about it? I liked about that it was based on play. It didn't feel hard to do, and yet I saw the impact right away. I felt like because it was real life scenarios, it got a little tiny snippet of a moment to reflect on something, you know, because parenting is so fast, things happen so quickly, but it gave me a structure in how to focus on. Am I too loud? Okay. It gave me a chance to focus on emotional stuff, which tends to get slid to the side because we don't want to deal with difficult emotional moments, but it gave me a structure in which how to approach them positively, and how to give myself chance to reflect, which was super helpful, because that's how you make good parenting choices as you go forward, if you can think about them. I would say beyond that, I said, what would you like to be changed or added? I wouldn't say anything at this point in time. The only thing I had brought up, I think, with Lubna at a chance is I love that it's an add-on, but I also think at some point I would love to see an attached center where you could come and actually just have everyone access it, because I just know so many people in my circle of people that would never qualify to be in the same situation I was in, but probably could have benefited, because I just see the positivity in the therapy program so much that I would love to see an attachment center. And I said, I think for some barriers that could help people enroll, just people's impressions of what being involved in research is, and that it's not scary. Because I think when we already feel we're at our worst, it's hard to be watched, observed, even if we know it has to just be that huge enforcement that this is a really positive, supportive therapy, and it really is bringing out the best in the parents, and just that people need to learn more, that research can be super helpful for them, because I think that would be the only thing that would come up. I think that's all for me.
I like the demonstration of sensitivity and responsiveness. Just saying.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. That was wonderful. Thank you very much, Simone. That was great. I know there's going to be questions, but we're going to jump through our panel before we go through. So again, in no particular order, I see Marcia next. So if you want to, I know that Susanna, you're sitting next to Simone physically, but I see Susanna or Marcia next. So let's go that way.
Great, thank you. And just for context, I am a patient research partner, and so I haven't used the ATTACH intervention as a participant, but I have had a number of exposures to ATTACH and been able to go through some of the material, and had the opportunity. And I think, you know, one of the reasons that ATTACH maybe has had some success is because the research team is open to incorporating parental feedback and having that advisory council. So that's what attracted me to joining this team. Is I'm always looking for researchers who value patient or parent. The word patient is kind of broad, but in this case, I guess it would more be parent input in the study. And so I've appreciated that. And I just have to say, I'm so encouraged by the pilot results. I just keep thinking, how can we get more people impacted by ATTACH? And I love Simone's idea about the ATTACH center. I can see Nicole's head wheels spinning. Maybe there's something there, but yeah, how can we get it more broadly to impact more parents the way it's impacted Simone? I'm a mother of 3, and you know, had periods of time, and my children are a little bit older now, and I just wish that I could have been involved when my children were young. I would have loved to be involved in the study as an actual participant, and I enroll my kids in almost every study that comes across my computer screen. I'm like trying to give them a love of science and trying to give them and we learn, and like Simone said, we learn something about ourselves and about our children in every study we do. So it's not scary to get involved in these kind of research gigs. It's actually beneficial as a participant, I find, in many cases. So for anybody who's wondering about getting involved, I would say do it.
I'm muted. Okay, thank you, Marcia. That was wonderful. And all right, jumping over to Susanna.
Hi, I'm Susanna, and I'm one of the on the parent engagement committee, and I am Simone's mother, and I participated with her in the Attach program, and I really enjoyed it. I wasn't sure what it was going to be like, but I've studied Attach when I was the Attach theory when I did my psychology degree, so I knew how important it was. And it was a very interesting process. And I remember Lubna at one point gave me a list of emotions because I was asked, she was saying, well, what do you think, what do you think your grandson is experiencing or your daughter's experiencing? And I remember going, gee, I wish I had a whole list of adjectives and adverbs. And she gave me this list and it was great. I could answer the questions and it broadened my vocabulary. I think that being as Simone's main support, it's very important that whoever is parenting, co-parenting with the mother also does this program. So that would be one area of encouragement, is that it's really good to be on the same page when you're parenting. And I help look after Caden, her son, my grandson. And so it's important we can dialogue, we can have those conversations when there's things that occur. And the Attach does improve your reflective functioning for yourself, for anyone else in your relationship circle, and certainly for children. And so I really enjoyed the experience. And I do feel it's important to emphasize that it is a very warm, welcoming, accepting program, because there's lots of people who really aren't as familiar with psychology or the sciences, and they do need to be encouraged, but made to feel very welcome and not judged, because families under stress can feel very judged. And most mothers are doing their best, and we just need that little bit of extra help. So I think that's all I would say. I think an attachment center would be a great idea too. So I'll put my vote in for that. Everything we can do to help parents, especially in the reflective functioning area, I think is a very worthy goal. And I'm sorry if my voice sounds a little crackly. I'm just getting over this very bad illness that we all three got. And yeah, just recovering from that. But I love participating in this program. I think it's fantastic. And yeah, whatever we can do to assist this program moving forward from our experiences or our reflections, I'm happy to contribute.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Yeah, and as an aside, every time I see Caden, I can't believe how much bigger he's gotten. Like that, nothing marks time like a child. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I wish we had time for more questions, but I want to make sure, and there might be some more that come up, but I want to make sure that we have time for the people in our group to ask questions. And I have some more CEDAR questions as well, but I want to open up the floor first. So Nadia has been very patiently waiting with her hands up. So Nadia, if you want to unmute yourself, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, hi, that was a great presentation, Nicole. Thank you. Sorry, my dog's barking in the background. I'm trying to hide in another room so it's not too loud and disruptive. Now, my first question was the research involved with birth mothers only or just mothers? And then it's kind of a twofold question. And for different structures of family units, could the Attach program be successful with, say, the father as a primary caregiver or a grandparent, rather than them being a part of the program as a secondary support system?
Yeah, great question. Well, for the original pilots, it was mothers, and they didn't have to be birth mothers. It was just, people that said they were the mother of the child and receiving services at one of the agencies. So that's for the first 7 pilots, that was the case. And we had only one instance where we would have loved to have had a dad. I think, Virginia, you probably remember this one dad, but we couldn't recruit him. It felt really bad for us at the time, but that's just the nature of the, when you're testing something for the first time, it had to be a little bit strict. But now that we're scaling to the prairie provinces and hopefully in Ontario soon, we have opened it right up because we know it works, and we just don't feel like, for me, always as a principal of caregivers, I don't care what your gender is, the person who loves that child and is the primary caregiver is who we want to work with. And so it's anyone in any family structure. We've always allowed it, any family structure. Family structures can look quite different, right? There's no real standard, it seems. So now in the new work, we have opened it right up, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of genders and family structures we end up recruiting. I don't know if Virginia or someone who's actually been doing recruiting could even comment on that. Do we have any dads who are
we have 2 dads. One dad's totally
Great.
completed the session right now, and then we have another dad who's in the process of completing. And we also had a grandmother who was the primary caregiver who we did with at CUPS. So we've had almost if you're the primary caregiver, then you were available. Other than the dads, now the dads are available to do it.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Virginia.
Oh, that's great to hear that the program can be successful and it wasn't developed just for mothers. So that's very encouraging for everybody, and that you guys have opened it up. Thanks for answering, Nicole.
And if I can just add to that quickly, which is strange for me, but the co-parent doesn't have to be dad. And we've had a lot of contexts where, like Susanna, for example, was the co-parent for Simone. So, and it's like that, we've seen like all these effects have come through regardless of family structure and who the co-parent is. So that's very encouraging that it doesn't have to be, it's not designed for, and it doesn't have to be traditional family structure. It seems to fit whatever the situation is, whatever the support team is across the board. So I love that about Attach.
Can I comment on something too? I hope it's okay, but I just, what Simone and Stan and actually Marcia have been saying really resonated with me. But particularly the comment about it being non-judgmental. And that's a super important, it's a value that we have, but it's also the way the program is designed. It assumes that people have a capacity, and it's been, their lives have been challenging, and that you just need a chance to build that capacity. So we often say we don't teach anyone anything. We just give them a chance to practice something they already can do. And I think that I didn't talk much about this, but we've had very, very low dropouts. And I think it's partly because of this. People feel like most parenting programs assume you have knowledge deficits. We're not there. We don't assume that, or we don't even worry about that. So I think that's part of one of the things that I think make it successful. And I was glad to hear you pick up on that, Susanna, because that's, I think, some kind of principle that kind of underlies it all. And the other thing, the value of having the co-parent. One thing we've observed is, so the parent who's engaged, they learn about, they practice their skill, and then they bring the co-parent in, and they get to show that co-parent what they've been doing and learning, and that co-parent can learn it too. And then but the parent themselves gets like a boost of confidence because they can teach someone what they are doing. You know what I mean? Like, we're not there teaching it. The parent is there conveying that knowledge. So I think that some of those approaches, which, I think we're partly in principle and partly just, accidental because of the nature of the skill. I think they really contribute to the success of the program. So I think co-parents are so important. And I think that the co-parents being part of it are super key. That's all.
Oh, yeah, and that message was definitely very relayed. Like, your language and choice of language was very clear about that throughout the whole process, that you were supporting us in a skill we had. And I appreciate that very much. And yeah, and I think because my mom has seen that, she could equally participate, like it was something we were practicing versus not having it all, I do think that absolutely contributed. And you guys are very lovely people, so it was made it easy.
We're growing and expanding, so hopefully everyone is just as lovely. Try. Anyway, that's enough for me, Kara.
Oh, no. And I think just a final wrap up on that too, I think it also relates to what Marcia was saying about how research doesn't have to be scary. Like, it's not just the program that is hopefully welcoming. I think hopefully it's the research team. So, you know, we do value our parents. So we're so glad that you guys were here today. We do have a question in the chat from Carrie. So the question is, do you know whether the intervention would work for parents who have diagnoses that create challenges with reflective function, like autism or FASD? And I'm going to add to that, Nicole, do we know if are we going to be looking at whether it works for potentially children with these sorts of challenges as well? I see you responded, but I'll let you talk.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope Virginia can help with this too, because I think we have had kids with some challenges in our sample. We haven't looked at them, like we haven't looked at their data, but I think we've seen improvements. So I'll come back to you on that in a sec, Virginia. But my gosh, it's funny you asked me that, Carrie, because you know how many grants I'm writing. The only reason we haven't done this is because we're so busy trying to get all the projects done and new projects launched, you know, to test the app. We've got a new grant in review to test the Attach app. But this is something that Martha and Virginia and Lubna have talked about. They think it could definitely be beneficial for kids who have developmental delays and disabilities. I've heard people at Alberta Health Services are really keen on us doing something around this, but it's just a matter of time. Honestly, it's a matter of time. So, and Virginia, do you have a comment? Because I know we have seen kids with challenges.
Yes, we've had kids with challenges, and we've seen big improvements by the time that they finished the study. And so it's just, we have had a few kids with challenges, and then just with their reflective functioning, we found it went up too, because with the moms going up, then they went up as well.
One of the strange things, I was gonna say, one of the strange things you see about the effect in this program is, I mean, I haven't been hanging out with the team while they're delivering intervention in a while, but when I was, and Virginia, you are there now, but you can see it. You described it, Simone, how like you felt like you were switching. You can see it in the course of one session or two or three, like you can see the improvements. And I've never been part of any intervention where you can, the impact is so large that you can see it. You don't need to actually sit down and measure it with your tool, although we are. But anyway. So I'm glad to hear Virginia say like that's the kind of thing she's seeing.
Yes, yeah, and like you said, it is like that. By the second session, they're starting to get it, and then they just continue to get better.
Oh, and Joanne, are you seeing stuff like that too? Joanne is one of our other lovely intervention attached facilitators.
Oh, definitely. I know for a fact we've put parents through that have been on the spectrum and that have had FASD diagnoses and who are low COG. So yeah, definitely. Personally, I saw massive changes over the course of 10 weeks with that population. I know we're not testing that specifically, but yeah, it's very promising for sure.
And I see Simone has her hand up.
I just wanted to weigh in just because my son has ASD. And so then I definitely found that, you know, if I verbalize my reflective process externally, that really helps support him reflecting as well on his own emotional score. And all of his teachers and all of anyone who's interacted with Caden have noted that Caden has extremely good recognition for emotions and his ability to tell me how he's feeling. And so I can see the process as I say, yes, I'm thinking about this. This is how I'm feeling. You know he tells me too. So it's, you know about this game? Yes, I do know about that game. That's a math game. Watch. You have to get the code. Oh, that one's hard. He kicks my butt. No. Yeah, I've noticed, and everyone who has said that has saying he's doing so well. Same for his pediatrician, and they just said, I think because you know you're doing this, he's doing so well. And so it's definitely shows up with kiddos that may not verbalize what they're feeling, but if you give them, oh, you did make a big number. That's a really big number. Mom could not add that number.
That is 9.
Yeah, they've all pointed that out. They've all said that he has empathy and that he cares about his peers and that he's very socially motivated. All the comments have come back, and I do really think that that has to do with this, with doing this process. So I do absolutely see it firsthand for my kiddo.
And you're getting lots of hearts and applause and comments for sharing. So thank you so much. No, it would be awesome. I echo what's in the, it would be awesome if we could look more specifically. I guess, Nicole, there's more grants in your future tackling this
I'll have to write them,
question.
Not immediate
But I
picture.
mean, and I also, and just as we're almost at time, so we're wrapping up, but the question about parents too, like not only was there the immune cell gene expression showing that there's benefits for moms and kids, but I think, Nicole, remind me that meta study that we did found an improvement for reflective functioning in our parents, right? Like, so we are seeing improvements in parents.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, totally. So it's not just the kids that are benefiting. That's one of the wonderful things, is that the parents are benefiting, and it seems to be having lasting impacts as well, although we need to study that formally going forward. But anyway, I want to be conscious of the time. We're at 1 o'clock, so thank you so much. A big round of applause and a thank you to our wonderful family panel and Nicole for giving a talk. Thank you so much for giving this information, responding. Lots of applause I'm seeing in the group. Quick plug, we are going to have our last attached symposium ever, end of January. So that will be, I believe, January 27th at noon. We'll be sending out an announcement for that. Yes, January 27th at noon. So we'll be sending an announcement out for that, where Caroline Petrowski is going to be talking about trauma-informed research. So please stay tuned for that, and please attend if you can. But thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a great winter break, and we'll see you guys afterwards.
Thanks, Kara. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.